Last day, the president was out of his first day of the Union address, addressing Congress as well as us, the American people. Well, ever since that State of the Union was actually announced just a couple of days ago, he didn't say anything about US Social Security, SSDI retirement, and SI beneficiaries. We are feeling left out. We are feeling discouraged. When I say all plus, I mean there are about 70 million beneficiaries who receive all of these benefits across the board. Let's talk about the State of the Union address as well as President Biden's lack of mentioning anything about Social Security. The Social Security 2100 and the SSI Restoration Act should be getting some attention this year. Now, apparently within the next month to month and a half or so again, I say also very loosely because we know how Congress can get back up by a long time if they get distracted with other branches of legislation. There's going to become some discussion in the House of Representatives in regard to the Social Security 2100. They may be bringing the SSI back and discussing that as well, and possibly moving these through Congress simultaneously, like in tandem right next to each other as two separate bills, or possibly they bust them together as one bill. They are focused on two separate programs, Social Security and all the programs encompassed within it. About the president and his lack of saying anything about these programs in the State of the Union. Now here's the deal. The state basically to give us as well as Congress kind of a little bit of an update as far as what happened to the first year of his presidency. Talking about his agenda's item and what is he urging Congress to do going forward as far as sending all the branches of legislation to his desk. Move to another side, Social Security 2800, as well as Social Security as a whole, and the SSI Restoration Act, because there are two big proposals out there right now to reform these programs and possibly even raise benefits for beneficiaries. Now, the president didn't say more information about this program just because he didn't mention it. So, the simple fact that they say they're going to do something and then they don't follow through is like no surprise, but the word on the street and what we are hearing as far as everything going on out there. Congress needs to work on these things anyway, completely separate from the president. Therefore, if they work on something, the likelihood of the president supporting it is probably very high. The reason is that they know what he's going to support. They are not going to go out there and work on stuff and spend all their time working on legislation. So, the point is, Congress needs to come forward and start working on these first. If last, when they actually do that this year, it looks like they want to get this done before the midterm election. What Congress says and what they actually want to get done by certain timelines. Next, what it looks like Congress may be doing here within the early time, also going forward. But it could get delayed. It hurts that he didn't mention anything about 70 million people out there in this country who are struggling so incredibly badly. Then, just because Congress brings them up and they start debating this on the floor, possibly making amendment to the bills. Anything could take place at that point, right? There could be all kinds of amendments made to the bills. They could bring it, debate it, and maybe pass it through the House and then it fails in the Senate. We were gonna have to trust that they actually recognize that the low income, the fixed income seniors, elderly people with disabilities, and people who are struggling right now is going to be the focal point of Congress going forward. Yeah, it hurts. It's never fun to be forgotten about, but at the same time, just because he did not say anything does not mean that it is all messed up and then it's a no going forward. Social Security and the President are probably not like oil and water. They are probably more like, I don't know, chocolate and ice cream. But at the same time, those two are like perfectly fit together. But at the same time, I don't know if the President and Security are like that, but more like the kind of work together, they are kind of hand in hand. If Congress happens to pass something through to actually pass the Social Security Act 2800 or the SSI Restoration Act, if a Democratic Congress passes it through, it's probably going to be signed into law by a Democratic president. However, it could be wrong. The only thing that will tell us is time. That's the only thing we can do is wait, and the time will ultimately prevail.